that. Oh, I'm working. Sure. But then I get. Okay. All right, everyone, welcome to our first virtual session of the 2025 Living Lab Forum. Thank you to everybody who's joining online. Really appreciate what are we up to now? 16 extra people, so we're expecting a few more, but that's great. These virtual sessions, we're going to run them in a similar fashion to the in-person meetings that we've had throughout the day with the a kickoff conversation presentation from a specific living lab. and then an opening up for discussion after that or some interaction, however the person sees fit. But we also want to hear your experiences from across Canada as well. If you have an interest in saying something, please just use the raise your hand function and we'll be able to, well, the function is allow you to talk. It seems pretty blunt, but, or you can put something in the chat, or like we have a Q&A function that we'll be monitoring. We'll try to get to everyone's questions. If we don't, we'll follow up with answers after that. So fairly straightforward, otherwise keep everybody's muted in webinar fashion. And we will start. This first session is on KTT and engagement within Living Labs. And to kick it off will be Living Lab and Newfoundland and Labrador and Rodney Reed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dan. There's no PowerPoint, so I was gonna do one, and I decided not to. I have done. That'd be great just to have conversation with everybody here, hear from feedback from the partners. We do have some new people in the room, like Cheryl, for example, that is new to us, probably not new to, definitely not to the world of agriculture. And so this session was talking about increasing farmer engagement in different platforms. So many of those different ways is how do we get farmers to be engaged and how do we get them part of that knowledge transfer? We have all been in the space for a little while. We've learned a lot from the legacy projects that, you know, the Andrea. So the first phase of Living Lab. And then we're looking at the people who joined in after that. So for us right now, so Living Lab, Newfoundland and Labrador as well, we are in the same phase. We have a year and a half left in the project. So how are things going? And how do we create more engagement? So one of the wins for me, we've talked a lot about this throughout the day, successes, challenges, opportunities. And I think we've all had challenges of setting up an event, you put a lot of effort in and trying to get farmers to the plate, to the event, picking the best time. It's not always the best. Mother Nature changes things. In a field season, you want to have a field day, but you might set it up and you might get one farmer. Who knows? Just because that day, sun came out and the rest of the days is going to pour rain or something else like that. So in saying that, opening up the floor, is there any successes that you've had in creating more engagement in your Living Lab that you feel like is a big win?
What we've been finding in Ontario is that a lot of our partner organizations are doing engagement in KTT, which is great, really great. They're forgetting to let us know in advance that they're doing it. So we've been kind of trying to work on opening those lines of communication so that we can help promote things even more.
Yep. So there's a lot of, we had this discussion earlier, I think, over the last couple of years of a lot more people in the space as well. So it gets a little noisy. You know, we talk about off-cap Living Lab, other environmental programs as well. So it can get quite busy.
And another thing we're able to do is kind of partner some events that are both Living Lab and then on farm, the provincial research program that we have, and then as well as pairing stuff with OFCAF and then offering KSE opportunities where farmers can get credits for coming out.
We've had a similar experience in New Brunswick and we do enjoy a really positive relationship with New Brunswick Soil and Crop and delivers the OPCAP program. So we've kind of tried to partition out some of our KTT activities, and so we try and use that train the trainer model to expand our reach, right? And so when we run parallel activities, we'll typically invite stakeholder communities, watersheds, agronomist community, private and public, to be part of our workshops. And we tend to bring our content elevated up into the science levels, right? So we're providing that background training so that when the agronomists go back and talk to them, having producers on the ground, they can drill it down. And that allows us to talk about opt-out program for funding, route programming, right? So growers and the agronomists all kind of did on the same page. And then through that process, which was positive, we started to talk about producer fatigue and the number of workshops and KTT events that were ongoing. So we actually got together with Soil and Crop and the province and our watershed groups, and we said, all right, guys, let's put it all on one page. And let's start to build our agendas kind of around one another, so we can speak to the various initiatives and bring that unique perspective. So I think that partnership, and I spoke to it this, that opportunity from the Living Lab perspective to draw people into a common arena to have those conversations. I think that's similar maybe.
So with the other funding program, you actually decided of a joint calendar where the event would fit in,
Yeah,
right?
that'd be bad.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So a rising tide floats all boats.
And it's, I mean, the message is similar, right? Because we're gonna speak to, hey, here's the carbon sequestration rate of the nitrogen Maryland generation rate you can get from your cover crop, and here's how you get it on, and here's the challenges we found, and then this. Soil and Crop says that here's the funding that can come along, and here's what your eligibility criteria is, and I can come in out next Tuesday and have you fill out the application. It's just becomes very turnkey and streamlined.
Great, thanks, Cedric. Last week we were in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and we kind of had the same kind of model, so we had the mental health and safety program for people in Labrador, it's called AgriCare. So the representative there came, and we had someone come over with a rollover protection system who came. So we were going there for Living Lab, took it off CAF as well while we were there. And then a farmer who was able to get access and funding to put the rollover protection system on his tractors. So we were building relationships however we could, but creating one space so farmers didn't feel fatigued, they could all come and be part of the full event, so. Recognizing that everyone's busy and there's a lot on the go, so. Anyone else from another?
I guess I'll add that, so the presence of technical people or like people, like researchers in this case, I think it really adds value to all the farmer kind of thing, because so I've had earlier on people say how farmers like to learn from each other, etc. But there's always that component of them having a question that they'd like to ask a technical person to actually address that. And now the reading labs, whenever we organize KTT events, we will be having some of our researchers who are part of the reading lab to be there. They may be studying the background, but they're able to respond to some of the content that may be a bit more tense. And then the other aspect has been to incorporate, in some cases, not all the time, but some cases to incorporate some demonstration activities there. So soil sampling, or how to look at the soil layers and be able to show a producer how they can understand their soil pH results and stuff like that. So that demonstration of actual activities that the producer can be able to understand their farm much better helps to make the engagement to improve the engagement.
Yeah, can we put people online when we?
Well, I just asked Linda.
Oh.
They're not sharing their video because of the webinar. Yeah, so they can see us, but
Okay, can I
But they
try to
can't
join it? I'm not sure if it's only on.
They can't participate.
It was saying that the host has it parallelly. I'm not sure, like, if you are waiting for more people, maybe they are having the same issues.
Oh, that's right.
Well, yeah, I
You
tried to
can
join the
join.
online session and it's.
we have. Oh, here's Karen. Oh. See if this works.
I'll just make one, look, we've got a workshop coming up that we've done like similarly, like the rest of you, August 6th, we're having a workshop that was partnered with Sask Forage Council and the Ministry of Agriculture and the province and who else is on that? Ducks Unlimited, ourselves, diverse, we're gonna partner with them to have this workshop. We're going to a Living Lab site. We're going to, and it was like pulling teeth. We're going to have some of our AFC scientists present there. But it was like we had to make sure that there was absolutely no cost to them. Everything had to be waived. Just, I think if we're gonna get this community of learning we gotta enable, AFC's gotta enable some of these scientists to attend some of these field days and be out in the field with us and take advantage of them, just like crew that the producers did, just to have that community at learning. And so, yeah, you could enable those folks more to participate, that would be the beneficial.
Actually, we talked about the issue with staffing this morning.
Yeah.
Travel has been another key issue for us. We needed to reduce total spending on travel at a time where the program was kind of extending, and so it is an issue, and yeah.
Can I see Aaron online?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, this was just about some technical pieces with the webinar format. For those folks online, the chat is disabled, but the Q&A box works. Or it appears you can raise your hand and someone in the room will unmute you so you can speak.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks, Karen, that was easy. Right, but challenging for others.
I just, to follow up on Kelly's point, I think this kind of highlights the variation across the country. Our researchers have been actively involved in our workshop process, and they've actually been eager to come out, so where it fits their topic. Like, we're making space for them, so.
Same. And like, we keep hearing that travel budgets are cut, but when it comes down to it, everyone that we've invited somewhere has been approved to show up.
Okay. Good to hear.
Ontario with all their money, I know.
What is this phrase?
Nobody wants to. We have no trouble getting out there.
I'll start, one of the barriers for uptake identified as program fatigue, because there's many different pathways. So one of the methods we've included is like for any gathering or knowledge exchange piece. To invite the partners so that they can communicate about the program and reduce some of those barriers for uptake. And then you have more resources there to also answer those specific questions, because it's a really valuable opportunity for producers to talk specifically about their land base. And then, yeah, I think really leaning and partnering, so you're not creating further pressure on the uptake realm with partners, but also overcoming like the autopilot filter. So really, thinking about ways to craft the messaging and the outcome for producers to have interest with us. I think I'm a big proponent, when any of us, I think, can advocate, if you go to a big conference, like there's a few sessions you want, but it's really the network opportunity that doesn't get measured, but is super valuable, the coffee conversation. So I try to always facilitate those opportunities to the greatest extent.
Great, thanks, Kath. Anyone else wanted to offer their insight?
So two KTT examples, like we're a provincial organization, so we're not really in the day-to-day contact with the farmers, so we try to. What we do is what we think is our role, and then we work with the partners who have the day-to-day contact with the farmers for those small level meetings. At our level, one of the things we so far put emphasis is 3 videos per year. We produce, last year was to explain the project, and this year it's what we've determined is interesting from the first year results. 3 different videos to relate, and it's always a combination farmer, researcher, agronomist. It's a trio. And second example is because we involve the agronomists within the agronomical clubs in the project. For each farmer, there's an agronomist that's involved. So they're aware of the project, they're involved in the project actively, and they have their events all across Quebec. Every year they have at least one event in each one of their clubs. So like I'd say there's 1 to 2 events per month, just them. It's small groups, so it'll be 10 to 20 farmers max, I would say. But they will often have an event, like I just had one come in today in October, it's gonna be on cover crops, so they went and asked the team, they're in the project, they know the researchers, they contact the researcher. And all we do is do the support, for example, if they need a standard way of presenting it for the communication requirements and things like that, or. But we let them go and it's really comes from them. So there's at least 1 to 2 per month, I'd say, since the beginning of the year. That's because they're involved in the day-to-day and we give them a basic, I call it a way of functioning, but we try to keep it as simple as possible.
Great, thank you.
I think one of the things we've noticed is like the difference in outcomes when you send a representative of a living lab to speak in the event. Versus when we're able to have multiple participants there, feeding off each other or sharing sort of like diverse experiences and able to draw contrasts and. There's huge value. It's expensive, time consuming, and some of the things you talked about is like, we did a field tour this year and it was just so hard to decide that, yes, we want to pay for all these people to get here on this day, and we're gonna trust that it's gonna be worth it in the end, that we're gonna get a good turnout. But yeah, like to lean into, I think that can showcase some of the benefits of the network when you see that people playing off of each other and sharing a bit of a window into how co-development happens and how we can learn from each other instead of just promoting. So I think sometimes when we would say like, can you go speak about the project? People would feel like, oh, do I have to like promote, just promote practices? It comes back to, yeah, that's not what the program is actually trying to do. We're not just going singing, yeah, these are great things, adopt them. We want to talk more process and successes and failures and,
And sometimes when you go to play events like that, some of your marketing, but you're, trying to sell something. Literally, not that I'm trying to sell anything. But you know what? But all those little things, like you said, and sometimes, you look at what your work plan, what you set up to do years before. And now we're actually rolling it out. There's sometimes opportunities in not doing something. If you had a field day, you don't have producers engaged, and this whole realm of factors against you. But you might have an opportunity to go talk to a small subset of producers doing a tailgate event, which I've done a few of those. It's just, I might go meet 2-3 producers for 3-4 hours and I get more value out of that. But then how do we capture that in a KPT on tab 7? Right? So how do you do that? And how do you be creative with that? So when we look at maybe a 3.0, how do we put that as part of our work plan to be a little more creative around those events? Because sometimes no matter what you do, universe is against you, right? And farmers are busy, they have a lot on their plate, and it's a lot of time and investment. And a lot of times farmers don't have time. That's usually the biggest issue.
Summarize what we've learned over the years. It is very difficult to get farmers to commit to coming in the room, especially during January, February, March, when those are the ideal months because there's so many other activities or other events that are happening. So in ACS, we, instead of planning our own events, we just tend to piggyback on a lot of other events. We look at what's already happening. Where can we plug Living Labs into those events? We've feedback from farmers don't want to sit in the room and have a fire hose of information. So Living Lab 1.0, we started using the infographics. I say invented because I think Emily Murphy really set the stage for the rest of Canada and people use infographics now to showcase. In Living Labs 2.0, we moved to videos, so producing videos that explain the BMP that we're doing in the field, who's involved, and they get to hear from the producers and from the research scientists and from other partners who are making it happen. So It is there, we put them out on social media, and then we also make them available and repost them at later dates when we know that. If something that we've done a BMP on is now a hot topic, and that a farmer may be looking for information, we have the ability to get back out there and post. The other thing we do is we notice farmers, a lot of them do not want to speak up in the room, so we use like Slido or technology like that. Everybody usually has their phone in their pocket. Feel free to answer questions, share your feedback with us by Slido. You don't have to speak up. If we are bringing them in the room and we want to present, we know they don't want to see. Again, there's no fire hazard information, there's no researcher standing up giving a presentation. They are very interested in hearing from the researcher and asking questions. So we've made sure we move to panel so that they get all perspectives. So you have a producer on the panel, a researcher on the panel, a couple of the partners, so we're getting the different perspectives. And we encourage conversation between them about the practice they're doing, so that any producers in the room then have the opportunity to ask questions and learn a little more in depth about it, as opposed to just trying to retain information that's coming at them through a presentation. Ronnie, I'm just gonna bring up the Atlantic Communications, KTT. You guys meet regularly. I'm not on that call. Emily is there. And you're your KTT person now, but I think what are we, 2 years, 3 years of doing regular calls with all of our KTT coordinators are talking regularly, so that in the Atlantic region, we're sharing and we're trying.
Atlantic and PEI of the West.
What?
Ma.
Ma.
Ma comes in as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't know Ma's on KTT.
Yeah, they do know, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, Ma. So they're on KTT as well. Yeah, and within our province, that caught on. Emily also leads another knowledge exchange group that just includes all of our provincial organizations, and it's been amazing how many organizations come forward and said, can we be part of this? We want to be in the know because we don't want to be putting out things on social media that you're already putting out, so they work from a calendar. They work from a calendar for launching different things on social media, so that there's not too much noise happening for the farmers.
And these are organizations that are not part living.
Right, some of them are living labs, others are not. Yeah, like our horticulture council said, oh, can we get in on this? We just want to be in the know. Dairy farmers came to us and said, can we add our KTT person? We went to a presentation recently with Cavendish Farms. They were opening up their new research site, so their own living lab. They asked that day when they were doing the announcement, we heard that you guys have a group where you talk about all of your knowledge exchange stuff, can we add our coordinator? So it's constantly growing, but I think it just speaks volumes to, Living Labs in PEI being recognized as the leader for networking people.
I think we're experiencing the same thing this upcoming month. There's another meeting to go to, bring more partners in who want to know what's going on within that space and who are not directly engaged right now.
Right.
So some are, but some sell the songbook, some don't, so that'll be great to. So another thing is, how do we incentivize producers to be engaged? And for everyone who easily came ahead and shared their stories. You can turn it over and read out whatever's on the,
You gotta read it out loud, everybody.
yeah. Kelly.
Knows you're not cute.
What odds?
Oh, wait a minute.
Proper ting, you gotta have the
Proper thing.
Shag it.
shag it, yeah. Shag it. It's another new flan saying. Right,
I don't know what that beetle is.
now to once?
Oh, that's like that.
Now to once.
No, but.
Yeah, now the once. I'll do it in a minute.
All me nerves.
Some shocking good.
Some shocking good.
You're gonna translate all of that?
I could.
Okay, everybody use them in a sentence.
Or after a drink tonight, you can use it in a sentence. I'll probably say the next few sentences. No, that's that's from Andrea and I, we had brought some of those and somebody, how do we incentivize producers for engagement, stuff like that, so. If I didn't offer anything and everyone was forthcoming, so imagine you had somebody to give, how much more you could get, so. That's just another analogy or metaphor of how to incentivize. Is there anything else that we haven't discussed, or anyone else wanna add any input that haven't yet?
Pretty sure we crossed some ethical boundaries by bribing people to participate and provide their input on surveys.
It was
Hey,
great.
do
The,
what you can.
the concept of that, being able to add hospitality to a certain level to events goes a long way. Cause lunch doesn't feel like a,
Somebody else
incentive,
laughing.
but it's a big thing, right? It's being able to provide things like that is coffee, lunch, stuff like that goes a long way to getting people in the door.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that was one of the hurdles we had, I guess, in the first thing was. We're ready to do hospitality, events and do workshops, and then told we couldn't do hospitality, and I said, well, we're gonna have to do our whole work plan over because. Farmers, where are we gonna meet? Tim Hortons? Like, you can't pay for a meeting room, under hospitality, right, and then food as well, so. But we're glad that that was lifted, officially, last year. So definitely in the next one, that needs to be up cleared stuff front for everybody, cause you need to have food and beverage to get farmers to come out, you can't expect them to.
I have been tempted to have a meeting and call them all in the room, put video cameras on them, and they say, where's the coffee? I have nothing in the room, I just been, here we go, Nathan.
Yeah, just a reminder for everybody online, if you wanna share your story around KTT or engagement, just use the raise your hand function, we'll unmute you and you can share, or you can put any questions you have in Q&A.
Just want to go back to hospitality, just because to me that's an indicator of like a virgin culture. So I'm curious like why it wasn't included, because it's one of those things where I'm like, that's so obvious, and I never, ever would plan without doing that to meet with this demographic especially. And it's a big divide in cultures. And I think that's critical to many things if we are going to align and be successful down the road.
I'll say the reason that it wasn't included at the start was to be consistent with the rules around hospitality across all of our programs, but. There was a recognition that Living Labs is different, and that the emphasis, the necessity to do KTT and to make it so that people aren't. I don't wanna go because there's not gonna be coffee, was becoming, or it represented a barrier for it being successful. And so that's why it's changed, and I don't expect it to go back the other way, in the future, because you need to get people out there, you don't need to add a reason why they don't wanna come to a Living Labs event for it. But the reason that it started the way that it did is because that's the standard for most of our programs.
And I think we've talked about that in the past as a group, that like we've tried to fit something that is a bit round. In the square box, and like that square box being the typical type of program we run and manage, so. There needed to be innovation from within, and like the evolution of the program, and it is part of that evolution too, like change to the EPR, change to not only the reporting system, but the program itself, so anyway.
Very interesting question submitted online from Kathy Mortimer. At Living Lab KTT events, do you have producers coming to get a KTT off-CAF credit? This might have been addressed already, but didn't quite catch it. I don't.
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes,
Well,
sometimes, yes.
anyway, and KTT off.
Sure, go ahead and
Elaborate. Yeah.
So we'll offer, like, we call them KSEs, knowledge sharing. So for other programs, they can come out and get the information that's being shared by a Living Lab researcher to check the box. Them being educated on something they need to qualify for. it is very good way to get people out.
And that's because you require farmers to apply for off-path funding to attend a KTT event in order to access the fund.
Is that standard across?
No.
Okay.
We don't have that on
Yeah.
our.
And-
Yeah, we put that in ours as well,
Yeah.
that they have to attend an event to get funding.
Wow, we did not even think of that.
I don't think it is in Saskatchewan.
No, because it would have been the same program as.
Yeah.
And I think that also goes like beyond off cap to some of our other funding.
Just kind of standard. Interesting.
And it's a way to build relationships and get people out that otherwise might not be engaged.
Yes.
Yeah, like I'm. Professional goals, we have professional development that we have to do every year. So it's kind of similar to that.
Yeah, CU credits. And
I remember going to your event in New Brunswick and you were like giving people some kind of form to show that they got their.
CCU
credit for
credit,
the
CCU
event.
credit, Yeah, we had a guy. One thing we did this year was pretty bold, but I think it's indicative of maybe where some of the industry groups are. Kind of seeing this net zero pathway coming down the pipe for their growers, but not really fully understanding what it means. We reached out to Matt Hemphill from Potatoes New Brunswick and said, listen, Matt, we're early days, we haven't got a lot of solid results coming out of the lab just yet, but why don't we bring in a series of speakers that can speak to what the fundamentals of that science means to the potato industry? And get somebody from the value chain to speak to scope pre-emissions. This is what it means. So it was really easy, like, yeah, you wanna do the agenda, fire it up. So he basically gave me their entire Potatoes New Brunswick conference agenda. We formulated it. They had a few things they needed to put on, but we kind of framed it all around climate smart ag, brought in some great speakers, and then in the end, he threw his back out the morning of the event, so I got to moderate the whole thing, but it was, so it was probably a one-off, but we were able to take center stage on that climate smart front. You know, we brought in guys like Burton and Steve Watts, you know, Brian Barrett, right, guys and gals that can really speak to the grower level, but also bring that higher level of science perspective, so I wouldn't hesitate to do it again.
Yeah, I was invited to a similar event. The city of Vaughan was holding it for kind of their food producers to understand the inputs of agriculture into their systems, so. Yeah, it was good for initiative.
We had that with the Indigenous Ag Summit where we partnered and then a similar situation where they really needed support to go on these like the whole agenda that on there and made suggestions. It's very effective and a target audience for our. There is, I think. It's what I'm hearing, and I feel there's a reservation to reveal to the ears. Doing knowledge sharing events is challenging because of weather, or you plan so much and sometimes you don't get the turnout. Lots of times that's the case, and it's a very hard vector to control. But it's not just us, it's consistent across the board for any type of organization doing dissemination. So I think like the partnership and support, even with simple things like altered on planning the venue, you know, and alleviate those small but numerous burdens that are not in my field of expertise, you know. I think there's a lot of net benefit for that. And then as well as we mentioned, like, you know, reducing fatigue and noise, you know, it coming together and not remaking things. There is that pressure to remake things because you have funding and you want to produce it, but doing a better job and having a more meaningful connection at those fewer events, I think is a lot better than the ones that are crickets, you know, and I'm not undervaluing the two producers that you spend the day with in the field, like those are small but super valuable, but you know, to always try to have these, you know, 50 to 200 person target producer events, you know, it's very challenging. And if you're gonna do it right, it's a lot more costly than we can afford to do. So.
big events cost a lot of money.
Huge, massive.
It's generally not in the budget, so. Right. The event that we did was some symposium back in January for the Federation, was the biggest event we've done. 160, and that's $150,000 event, so. It's a lot of leveraging. To hold that.
Yeah. A lot of time and admin coordinating that.
And they're gonna only pay for about 12,000 of it, but. That's because of my connections and massaging an agenda and relationships and partnerships and. How do I do that every year or every event?
And Ontario will pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. I'm just curious that this morning, we talked a lot about peer learning, and so I'm just curious, part of your planning process for KTT, do you build that in some kind of way to make sure it happens, or you just like assume it's happening, so?
Well, one example, it's a bit in line with the other example I gave about the local events, but specifically for agroforestry, so tree related practices. We are gonna develop what we call duos of farmers and agronomists. 4 to 6 duos spread across the province in targeted areas where we think we need to improve this practice. And we've recruited them. I almost gotta find the list, and they're gonna be, we're gonna help them build their presentations or their ways of presenting information. It's always gonna be a duo farmer agronomist. You know, his experience with trees, where he started, how he evolved. And we're gonna help add the scientific information. The agronomists will also do that part too. And also any data that comes from the farm, but also any data that comes from the scientific knowledge. And we're gonna offer that in events done by other organizations. And it's gonna be a pitch on resilience. It's not, how do you do agroforestry 1, 2, 3, 4? It's gonna be, how do trees integrated better in farming systems improve the resilience of a farm? And we think that's, we did a lot of work with groups to figure what our message would be. So we think it's going to attract interest so that these groups, these duos, we're gonna support them until the end of the project. That they're integrated in organizations. My dream is the big organizations and the events in Quebec, like Salon de Guitar, like something like that, that really attracts a lot of people, that they'll be invited. In small ones too, but that's, because there are so many events. There are so many events, and at one point you have to use the strengths of the organizations in place that attract people. And we want to go get the average farmer that's not really moving in that direction. So by using the farmer, we're choosing farmers that we think will be able to spark the interest. And so they have to have good reputations, they have to have ability to speak. So we're almost at the end of the recruiting process. We've got 14 interested candidates. We only have budget for 47.
14 producers?
14 producers who are interested across the province, but we did major information sessions with them to explain. And a recruiting process to really go get the interested ones. But it's a message on resilience. It's not, how do you do agroforestry? I don't think that's gonna attract anybody. And then offered into the major events. And we'll do the follow-up, but even locally, the farmer picks up the phone and he has an idea, he may be able to get better into the event than we will, so it's using that.
And Andrea, that's a very interesting way of doing it, but Andrea, you also said like, when the phone is ringing, like, are you doing some, like, matching between a producer, or like it's mainly between scientists and producer and getting the resource to the.
No, all of the above. And interestingly, when we talked with Anne the other day about this, she said, what kind of screening checklist do you use? I'm like, we don't have a standardized one, but we'll put one together quickly just to showcase what that could look like. Because we would want to see, what you're proposing, who else is doing that in the industry. Is there any farmer we can match you up with for like some mentorship there?
So I have a question online. What strategies do you use to keep producers engaged with the project? And a statement, I imagine that it would be easier at the beginning, but may taper off over time. Dan, that's a great answer.
I did, oh yeah. constant communication. The strategy is to find a way to have different forms of communication, but also a regular form of communication. Nothing worse than communicating in year one and then coming back to them in year four and not having some communication, whether that's to the general public or to your core producers, right? So regularity and some consistent regularity is definitely a strategy that we try to do in our sense. Cool. I'd love to hear other strategies on keeping producers engaged.
I have a whole guy that's his whole job.
What? So what was the time for him?
I know a guy who knows a guy who's got a guy.
We got one of them too. We might wanna look at your job description.
So what does he do?
He calls them and stops in, and there's a lot of like WhatsApp, they love the WhatsApp group chat. Just to like share photos and see what the other people in their project are up to.
We too have a farmer liaison, but I would like to dive into his responsibilities to make sure that it's producing the outcome.
Yeah, and he, like with all the data collection, he will like hold their hand through it if they need, like he'll fill out, you know, their baseline surveys and when they don't have time to do something, he will help them. Yeah, to make it easier for them, so. We're trying to remove all the barriers to their participation. And we have a really great group of producers who are just enthusiastic early adopters and are willing to come and participate.
Anybody else have any strategies that they use to keep producers engaged? Online and or, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, I apologies, I can't turn on a camera, but I think something we've just started and we'll see how successful it is. It is. There's, I think, one today actually. We're starting to match up kind of sets of producers who are either doing similar things or want to eventually do similar things, and having them visit someone who maybe has a bit more experience with it within the lab to start, but maybe we'll look at branching out outside of the lab to other producers as well. And just having them sit down and have a few conversations, look at some things in small manageable groups, right? So you really get that intimate trust vibe going on there.
Another question for the group, like, one of the things that I was not expecting, so my own learning curve was how big of a role equipment plays in what's actually feasible for, the ground practices. Has anyone ever targeted equipment as a connection or a theme of interest to an opportunity? Yeah.
So this came up in one of our more recent commodity meetings in the last month or last 2 months. And so the topic of manure application and the rain, I always mess it up. It's either rain 360 or 360 rain, where it maximizes your manure spreading injection with fertigation. And so one of our AFC researchers had reached out and is now working with the commodity to bring that company's representative out to field days and basically show what kind of technology is out there so that you can apply that to the BMPs that are being tested at the same time. Whether or not that piece of machinery is going to be deemed affordable. I mean, from what I understand about it, it's a several $100,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah, well, for us, again, we had a farmer just bought it like a couple of weeks ago. 360, I'm not using it, you're using it with manure or you?
For like fertigation.
We bought it, when we had another farmer who did this problem with him, he bought a turbo bar. Implement for his tractor for injecting the manure right in the soil. So we're doing the nitrogen greenhouse gas emissions and they have that, I have purchased it all. I crossed the lines and produced a video on that one, but you know, it was all before these rules were made.
So Catherine, can I understand your question, like, have we used, demoing equipment to bring producers out?
Yeah,
Is that your
like specializing on, you know, I guess the opportunities. Or like, I'm an opportunity mindset person, but the opportunities that are available with specific equipment, you know, some of it is just like. We all know too big can't fit kind of thing, but other items are. I'm trying to think of examples that are attainable. Some of it's just like getting space or like, so those like logistical solutions, if you're doing an intercrop. What are you gonna do with a little bit of heat, you know,
Yeah.
like where you don't have the storage of the value for it. So some of those logistical problems, I haven't seen a lot of that, and I think it might be like, light bulbing, or like, oh, hey, I didn't think that, or I'm in that same situation, I relate, I connect peer opportunities.
We've like demoed pieces of equipment with partners, like interseeding, that's unlimited drilling legumes into the existing stands. We've, on field days, went out and looked at different watering systems and, that type of equipment for sure.
Back to just the just engagement, good old trade shows. Have brought our KTT coordinator has had lots of engagement with that. I think specifically because they see our NSFA logo, like our federation logo, and we've built really a lot of trust over the years with that logo in particular, obviously, so which also has our environmental farm plan under us as well, so that has also people from our office on farm daily with various commodities and giving recommendations on environmental stuff there too, so when they see the living lab, it's something different, and they see our logo, they're gonna start asking questions. We have a pollinator display with bees. That's also a big attractant, so we start asking questions on that. And yeah, and pictures on the table or on the background, so yeah. We just did the wild blueberry one last week that I went to, and our team was set up there, and it's a very small association. The people that were all there, pretty much everybody stopped by the booth. They had either heard about it or they had seen one of the social media posts, and so they were there to ask questions, but and just learn more, so yeah. That gave us some good outreach.
Good, thank you.
Sorry, yeah, just one other thing, it's more of a in progress situation than a completed and results available, but. Our organization has a very large number of professional hydrologists that we hold as contractors. Through a variety of different programs that we operate. And we're looking at trying to leverage their very specific expertise to bring them out to support these events that we're running through Living Labs. Now, it's kind of a bonus for us, just the way that we structured their contracts, but it's this type of network where these advisors are also doing environmental farm plan. And so it's networking with those individuals who have their networks already spread out through different regions. So if you're going into one region of the province, it's kind of just a message or email out to, you know, your tagged advisors, and then they can again reach out to try and bring in those producers that they have intimate knowledge with, that they've gone out and actually created a long-term plan with. And also they can push towards different funding sources that will not conflict with Living Labs. So there's a specialization expertise, and then also a program funding backup to try and help those producers at the same time.
That's very much, that's exactly what archives, environmental complex, yeah. Both under the same group. And
We might have chat with them.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's what. Extra.
Last call. I'm the last thing between you and Nicole, so
Maybe, yeah.
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Whoever
Yeah.
can translate the bars on the table get more bars.
Mm.
More bars.
Honestly, I wish our ATT coordinator was here. She's done an amazing job in terms of coordinating all the different groups. They have 8 partner groups. And so she tracks all the different events that they do on a yearly basis, ranging from, each group should produce an article, it could be in the newspaper, maybe an interview with the radio station, and so one per year. Then we also have what we call cluster learning. So that should take place with every co-producer that we have. And so that means, the co-producer will come to the site, with a neighbor, a scientist, to kind of talk about what is going on. So one per site per year. And then on-farm events, farm tours, and including these field demonstrations on, say, combined cleaning, intercropping, to see how seeding can be done, where you have 2 or more crops being involved, and even separation of seeds after combining. So things like that, yeah. So I wish he was here, and then on a yearly basis, we all come together to do producer winter events, where we get producers to share some of the things they do. And then we also share a few of our results, from each site with every producer. This year, we did give them a soil carbon map. So in showing them the soil carbon data, the baseline data at the start of the project, as well as water infiltration and soil moisture content, over the course of the project since 2022. So, yeah.
More bars, Robbie.
Well, thank you, everyone. For a great day. Pass it back to Dan to.
You betcha. Thanks, Rodney. So everybody online, let's we'll convene for the day, and we'll look to see you all tomorrow morning, bright and early, 8:30, where we'll kick off with the conversation around reporting and so. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.